Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's José Barzola. This is our Advocacy for Social Justice Talk Story series, where we explore organized efforts and mechanisms for social change. Today's topic is on Aloha Response and Health, Rest, Digest, and Recover with Carmela Tafoya. Before I go into deeper introduction about today's event and our wonderful speaker today, I'm going to turn it to Carmela, actually, who's going to start us off with an oli slash blessing slash pule. So thank you, Carmela.
Mahalo. E ho mai ka ike mai nulae o na mea huna noi au o na mele e ho mai the puli, the blessing, the oli is give forth knowledge from above, give forth knowledge from the secrets, give forth knowledge from the song. Mahalo.
Thank you so much for getting us started. That's just beautiful and a wonderful way to center today's uh, gathering. For folks who are just joining in, today's topic is on Aloha Response and Health, Rest, Digest, and Recover with Carmela Tafoya. Today's session is about why does our body need more than exercise and healthy eating, yoga, or Tai Chi? How does our Aloha response to daily life bring peace to our sympathetic nervous system and its fight or flight signals, putting the body systems on alert, stress becoming balanced by our parasympathetic rest, digest, recover system, which signals and relaxes our system. Thank you for coming here to learn about how the two systems actually work together. Our wonderful guest today, Carmela Tafoya, is a 36-year veteran personal trainer, ACSM and NCEP certified. Her clients include individuals from all walks of life, including seniors, professional athletes, executives, to new moms, keiki, the LGBT community, and most recently, addiction recovery program. Moving to Hawaii in 2009 only deepened her commitment, adding foundations of Aloha and Ho'oponopono to her focus. So I will turn it over to Carmela today to get us started. Thank you.
Mahalo. I was preparing for today, and I actually discovered that a person that I have in common, has a daughter who actually has done a TEDx called How Storytelling Can Heal Trauma in Our Divided World. And that was just such an important find, like magically for me. And that's actually been a big part of my entire year. The things I've discovered at 65 years of age after starting a brand new business January 1st have fulfilled on my life stream. And my life stream had always been, as an exercise professional, health professional, to impact the health of young people and their wellness. And it wasn't until October 13th that actually happened in my life. So the moral of my story is never give up. Personal training is mainly for adults, and I love it, and I still do it, and it's still the basis of my foundation in life, including my personal practices. And what I have come to find out and know is that how we understand our stress systems really connects us to so many other areas. In other words, how we understand what our nervous system is up to and what our hormones related to our nervous system are up to. And I always said to my clients, I just want to gauge, I just want to have a measure of where stress levels are for people, because we would approach life and decisions and things differently. And turns out there's actually a measure, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Just going back to how storytelling can heal trauma, the ancient power of storytelling to heal our hearts and our world comes by sharing our values and our history. Listening to other stories, the stories of others, actually releases a hormone called dopamine and one called oxytocin. So story is a good medicine. We're here today to talk story, and inside of that, there will be healing. We just have to allow it. 1 in 4 adults have some sort of mental stress, and only 1 in 10 people feel optimistic. So again, how can exercise and eating a healthy diet really delve into the deepness of those wellness considerations? If we look back at the ancient Hawaiians, we actually have the mo'olelo that help explain everything that happens in our world. One of my most favorite mo'olelo came from my training in Ho'oponopono with a very profound kumu here in Hawaii. And he talks about the broken leg doctor. So as a healer or a doctor, where you found the broken leg doctor in ancient times was out surfing. He wasn't sitting in his office waiting for broken legs. Because then the guy crosses the street, and what happens? He falls in the hole, he breaks his leg because the broken leg doctor need business. And that model in and of itself, it lends to just a lot of complications and a lot of morals that are maybe not so upstanding. But if the broken leg doctor was at the beach and someone goes, "Hey, broken leg doctor, come. Guy broke his leg, he needs you." It happens so pono. It happens so right that we have healing and people who would like to have healing. People who would like to feel more well. And in Hawaii and in the tradition of our practices and our thinking, we have malama. And malama to restore the health of the natural environment and the native systems. So our personal health and wellness deep inside is connected to the health of our land, of our ocean, of others. And in Hawaii, we have the opportunity to keep that front and center. Many places and many people do not.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our audience mentioned our queen, Queen Ukulani, and quoted her, "The first medicine is forgiveness."
Absolutely.
Thank you. So, I know in preparation for this, might you what causes stress, causes a release of stress hormones and vice versa, and what may assist in releasing, allowing one to like calm themselves.
So, again, a recent, very fast forward education in our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system tells us that our sympathetic nervous system is the system that releases stress, cortisol, adrenaline, and the things that cause the release of that stress, besides the obvious, blue screen, not eating exactly at the same time every day, and keeping blood sugars in balance, which is something I always purported because I have a mom that's diabetic. I have both grandfathers and my dad later in life. So the opportunity to check our blood glucose, and now it's coming to a really cool watch. This one I ordered like from China, but it measures my stress. It measures our stress index called HRV, and it measures my blood glucose. And if I can keep those two things, if any of us can keep those two things better on track, and it doesn't take a lot of time, but we forget and we stop the habit that we really know we need to do. Other things that are producers of the stress hormone, besides the obvious, are not sleeping well or not sleeping long enough or deep enough. That's a big issue for a lot of people, not even realizing it. And then the natural stresses, being in traffic and so on and so forth, and those hormones actually can become cemented. And the great Joe Dispenza talks about that early trauma actually produces enough of those hormones consistently enough, because we think about it all the time, or we're enmeshed in those in those situations all the time. And those hormones actually then change our systems genetically. So we become addicted to that stress that our early lives have shown us or given us. And then we want more of that kind of stress. So early precursor of maybe any addiction, totally like my opinion, is that genetic change in our hormones. So what's the caveat or the flip side and the best side of it is our parasympathetic nervous system releases our rest and digest hormones. And those hormones are serotonin, like we eat a bunch of carbs and we feel like taking a nap. The other hormones that are related to relaxation, oxytocin. Now, that system is our automatic system. So that system is what keeps us breathing, our heart beating, repairs our cells, repairs our injuries, runs our immune system. It's not a part of our system that we can easily help support. But as soon as one little nerve in the body, and it's actually the longest cranial nerve, gets involved, called the vagus nerve, it's a 12th cranial nerve. Once that nerve is stimulated by many things, we start to release those hormones and everything can come back into balance. And really, balance or homeostasis is the absolute. If we can get there and not let those stress hormones continually drive us and become the dominant, then many, many things improve in life. So how do we increase our parasympathetic tone, our vagal tone? Well, Tai Chi and yoga happen to do that. There are many breathing exercises, one of which I'll maybe demonstrate toward the end, that do that. Many things that we are already doing that we just need to put a little attention on or a little credit towards: being in the sun, exercising a little but not too much, doing a little craft like doodling or drawing or gardening. But if we're just gardening and not saying to ourselves, wow, I'm helping to release some rest and digest hormones, it can get lost in the translation. And then instead we're going, but I'm gardening and I have to finish because I know I have to go do this and I have to pick up the kids and I have to go do that. And then we're all out of balance again. So that's kind of a short version of our system, but just want to emphasize, until this year, I had one other opportunity to understand about our nervous system, and it was when my mom first moved here. I brought her here from care home to care home, and she's had Alzheimer's / dementia diagnosed at least the last 10 years. And then it became that she needed care. And when I was able to bring her in the middle of COVID, she came and she barely knew her name. It was really drastic. And the decline was very quick in a few months, and who knows why, right? And then the second, third month she's here, she started fainting. And the caregiver sent her to the ER. And then 2 weeks later, she fainted again. And 4 times she fainted in 2 months. And I'm thinking, okay, I can figure this out. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a Google doctor. So, man, I got on Google and I'm like, what could be going on? Altitude changes. She came from New Mexico. And lo and behold, the common denominator that I ultimately figured out was that her vagus nerve was underproducing. Her rest and digest system was underproducing. So I took her to the doctor and I said, doctor, what can we do? I think it's my mom's, parasympathetic nervous system or vagus nerve. He said, I don't know very much about that. So I put together 9 things that can help in that moment of stress. So she never went to the ER again after that. And the caregiver was so great in lying her down and putting her knees to her chest and putting a cold cloth on her forehead and not giving her cold drinks and not giving her hot showers and not having her force a bowel movement, because those were the things that were triggering her system. Well, that was 5 years ago. And then this year, ultimately had the chance to and the opportunity to join a new company. And this company happens to have a device. There are many devices on the market that are purporting to help our vagus nerve, our parasympathetic nervous system. And there's plenty of information on Google. I found a document, 42 ways to balance your parasympathetic nervous system. So I don't need to go into those. Everyone just needs to do a little and find the things that work easily for themselves. Because this doesn't need to be highly time consuming. It just needs to be a matter of what works for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Someone in the audience mentioned that it's hard to be in a state to forgive if one is in a state of fear, which I think just can speak to not just the times, but I feel like, there's always moments in our society, in our communities, in our lives where uh, just our emotions are heightened. So they also mentioned how it's important to engage in the parasympathetic in order to lower our defenses and be open to forgiveness. So just kind of wanted to share that since this is recorded, I know folks won't be able to see the chat later on. I wonder if you might share a little bit about, you did a little bit, but a little further about simple ways or exercises that anyone can do to respond to daily life using more aloha.
Yes. So the two foundational ways for me happen to be using the Ho'oponopono process. Once again, that can be learned in a variety of ways. The layfoundation.org is who I've studied through. And my Kumu is very adamant about that. Forgiveness is something that, once again, it's like a memory, and unless we cut the aka cord and make a new connection, it's running us like a program. Yeah, and doing the Ho'oponopono process, cleansing, cleaning, and or writing things that have gone aole pono, to being pono. It's a very helpful process to me on a very regular basis. It was a daily process for me early on because I'm one of those people that forgiveness just didn't come easy. And then the second is during COVID, a cohort started called Foundations of Aloha. And it's a weekly cohort for 5 weeks. And every day of the week, you practice AOLHA. Akahai, Lokahi, Olu Olu, Ha Ahaha, and Ahonui. And the deeper meaning of those words by one of our aunties, Auntie Pilahi Paki, gave a new perspective and meaning to my life in living inside of Aloha. So that on a regular and daily basis is something that I refer to start my day. And there's included in the cohort education is a mahina mana'o. So it gives us the perspective of what's the moon doing and what's the moon telling us to do and not to do and to consider. And where else in the world does that happen? But except for Hawaii on a regular basis, where we actually can have and do have a really constant or a very intimate focus on our aloha and our aloha response. But again, the telling of stories, the mo'olelo, give us the chance with various stories to talk about how our living and how we live, to talk about our work and how we work, our play and our learning, but within a sustainable landscape. When we have a full plate, we have a full plate. So adding more things, especially time-consuming things, is really a chore and a challenge for people. I know that after 36 years of being a personal trainer and ultimately fitting in 20 minutes of exercise 3 times a week has been a challenge for 90% of the people I've worked with. And so they have a trainer who tells them what to do or helps them do what they need to do. But it really shouldn't be that. It's not human nature.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, and also just providing some wonderful extra tools for our community. And it looks as though folks in the audience also, made a mention for the Aloha Foundation with Mickey uh, and Hai Young.
Tomita.
Yeah, I think they're at an education incubator.
Education incubator, that's correct.
Miki Tomita and Ha-Young Kim Tano. That's right. And I think they do run a couple of those cohorts. I want to say like maybe 4 or 5 of them a year. So and it's completely free to folks who are out there. So it's a resource out there. It's done virtually. So the convenience is just you just have to make the time. Um,
Yes, and it's especially highly attended by moms and their kids and educators.
yeah.
And it generally has been at 7 a.m. a 10 or 15-minute Zoom, and at 4 p.m. a 10 or 15-minute Zoom. And you can simply listen if you're driving in your car. And yeah, I think this might be the 30th cohort starting next, and it's really grown, and it's really awesome. It's of course in honor of Uncle Pono Shim, who we lost to cancer a couple of years ago. He was the co-founder, and he's sorely missed, especially by me.
Thank
Well,
you.
as we also talk about young people and the opportunities that there are to learn from them. So I recently was participating in a trial at a addiction recovery center, and helping with the support of vagus nerve, the parasympathetic nervous system, and reduction of stress. Um, and as you just mentioned a moment ago, how much our our anger, our inability to really forgive and get calm about things in our life can thrust us into all kinds of directions we really that really don't serve us. In any case, after about 3 weeks of providing ongoing support there at the center, one of the young boys asked me, "Auntie, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Do you think God sets our destiny, or do you think we really have a chance to impact or change our destiny?" And I said to him, "Well, I can tell you this. I spent the early part of my life studying a lot of different religions, church jumping all over the place, studying Judaism, looking for where I felt that I was really connected to God. I was a religious person. I was still seeking, and I was praying a lot. And I said to him, and I was praying like on behalf of myself and on behalf of other people, especially family. And I just really can't tell you that gave me personally answers. And then I started drifting towards New Thought, and I started attending New Thought churches, which are what you think about, you bring about. The law of attraction, that we're like magnets and we attract to us exactly what we're most passionately thinking about and feeling. And it felt a bit more like I had dominion over my life, but it was still like bumping along with some really big bumps sometimes. And it really wasn't until a daily practice, and this is certainly one of the things that helps our parasympathetic nervous system, a daily practice of starting the day with thoughts that serve us, starting the day with, it's an everything going my way kind of day. And I said to him, even being here with you guys for this 5 weeks has shown me that if we can have a daily affirmation practice, if we can have a daily journaling practice, we are going to override or bring into balance our rest hormones, our calm hormones, and let the stress hormones do the job that they are meant to do. They're necessary in life. The stress hormones, if we're traveling on a train and it makes us stop, and people get on, and all of a sudden you're still looking forward, but you get hair on the back of your head standing up, You look around you and it's kind of a creepy looking person. And so it gives you the chance to move. It gives you the chance to protect yourself. That's our necessary part of our stress hormones. But for the most part, most of them are not necessary. And meaning, since we have control of them, we know when we're angry. We know when we want to do something bad, when we want to hurt something, including being self-destructive. Unless those other hormones come into play, then our response to life is basically hormonal. And so this is like the rubber hits the road. We as human beings really have the opportunity to learn about our parasympathetic nervous system, to learn about our vagus nerve, and to find the tools that work for us. And my very wonderful chief medical officer says that the happiness and joy in life is found in the journey, not in the destination. So it's just a day-to-day thing, and that's what makes it wonderful. Every day is new. Every day we start with where we are and where we see ourselves being, what we envision.
Thank you. I and one thing that, from what you're sharing really resonates is just something that I tend to talk about, shifting our perspective, trying to keep a optimistic approach, because that can really have such a large impact on your own health. If you always turn to, whenever you get news, you obviously we need, there's stages of grief and how we process things. But if we go to this detrimental space of just distress and negativity, your body's going to feel it, as opposed to, and people around you are going to notice it, feel it, and it's not stuff you need to like positivity, but I believe in karma a lot. The way you treat yourself, it's all balance, as they say. Not only what you eat, the exercise that you do, but also your state of mind and your heart. And keeping your emotions, being able to create a space for those emotions are so essential. So many of us are constantly having to get reminded to, it's okay to process. It's okay to, you talked about writing and reflections, and that's, I think, where, yes, we look at it as from an area of the intellect of having to write, but it's actually a beautiful way to let your emotions come through, uh, which sometimes we tend to not create a space for that. I know in academia, sometimes the conversations are around, we folks get trained to write for academic purposes, for publishing, not necessarily for prose and emotions. And so, and in many workplaces, once more, we focus on the tasks at hand, what will make money, and once more, not leaving a lot of space for emotion, which we're human beings, and that comes along with it. And so, just creating a space for that, I think, is so essential. And so, thank you for um, speaking to that. I know someone in
I
the
think
audience.
we have to
Oh, go ahead.
also take into consideration about this day and age, and I'm not any expert on the topic, but we have to be on the lookout for the story that instigates fear. 'Cause remember, Hitler told stories that compared enemies to vultures and rats, and that were dehumanizing. And look what it went on to do. And now we have computers, and we have AI, and we have AI generated videos and voices and faces, and like, where do we trust? And so we have to be on the lookout, and we have to promote our own stories, and those can be the ones we journal, so that there's things that are valid versus things that we might get tricked by or pulled aside by. It's a really interesting time.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to there's some comments in the chat. Also besides the Foundations of Aloha, which they're going on their 33rd cohort already.
Wow.
And I provided
Nice.
the link to that in the chat, and I'll add it to the summary for this recording. There's also Tom Pina at the My Kapono Foundation, and I provided the link to that information as well. And someone mentioned about how many circles have been created throughout the world since COVID turned us inward to circles of dialogue, and important spaces needed to be consistently created. A theme I heard recently posed the following question: how can dialogue save the world? I don't know if you have any comments on the question.
I
Uh,
do. I
yeah.
think that our so first and foremost, our tone in our everyday life is something most of us aren't aware of. I certainly hadn't been. And our softness in speaking, especially in a stressful time. Um, I have a hula kumu that's so wonderful. I think she could have been someone on the radio doing commercials because she just has this tone. And even when she's scolding us about something we're missing in our dance, she has this just this really eloquent tone in her voice. So number one, start with what's simple, and then when it comes to having the harder conversations, once again, we know listening is more important than speaking. And if we if we think about the just the nature of being in conversation, when we have also put emphasis on our parasympathetic nervous system and our calming hormones, we can respond from a really more humane place. My sister was just here, my youngest, for 6 days to visit my mom and spent her time here with me. Most time we've spent together one on one in our lives. And I was so taken by the fact that there were a couple of 2 or 3 times that there was a trigger that I felt like I wanted to become emotional about and or become hurt and or maybe even angry about. And I had this new sense of choice right in the moment. I can react this way or I can react that way. So I did my little breathing technique. Maybe I can do it with everyone right now, because there are some really cool little exercises that stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system besides, my device or someone else's device. So it's just a matter of taking 2 quick breaths in and 1 longer breath out 10 times. So everybody, let's start. 2 quick breaths in, 1 long breath out. That's one. So maybe 15 or 20 seconds, and maybe actually already feel something. I know I did. I started off with this real aggressive breath, and then I realized I'm not saying breathe aggressively. I didn't give that instruction, not even to myself. And then I felt my breath go calmer. Another really important one that's the favorite of uh, my chief medical officer is an ear massage. And it just simply is to put your index finger in your ear and pull down, and then very gently massage backwards 3 times inside of the concha cavum. That's the opening of the ear. That's where we have a bunch of vagus nerve endings, because the vagus nerve starts in the back of the brainstem and then it comes in through a big part of the ears, and then it goes into the esophagus and the voice box, and then it goes into the lungs, and it goes into every major organ in the torso. So talk about where you could have result. It's anywhere. I have now 60 different results that people in my world have had, 100 people this year, and some have had a response once and some have had the same similar response. So now other side, gently pull down and go backwards 3 times. And I yawned, not on purpose. Yawning during the ear massage is an indication you've stimulated your vagus nerve. You're now producing calming hormones. Sometimes it takes 6 or 9 times massaging. You have to find what's right for you. But be aware of, do you feel some sensation that feels like calm? Some people even cry. Yeah, because you're releasing that need to be in control. I also believe, as does my wise doctor friend, that we really have to see wellness first in each other, in the land, in the buildings, that we always focus on what's healthy about each facet of our lives. Because it's really so easy to begin the focus, to begin the introduction, to begin the magical relationship with anything in life from what's wrong. And that focus on wellness first. And granted, it isn't easy. I'm sitting across from a person who has had a heart attack, who's overweight, who's having trouble balancing and walking, and who's 80 years old, and they want to start exercising. It's like, okay, well, we do have some work to do, but it really has to start with what they can be, what they should be, what they deserve to be. And there's even something by Deepak Chopra called the observer effect. At least that's where I learned it from. He probably didn't discover it. The observer effect says, if you have a heart problem and then you're being medically evaluated, but you're focusing on how healthy your lungs are, and that's your main, wow, my lungs are great, my lungs are healthy, they serve me, they're doing their job. The cells in the heart that are damaged or weakened become stronger just by the observation. So much is so really cool in life if we just keep Googling and keep learning. You know, change is the only thing that's constant in life. And we have the chance always to change.
Thank you. Thank you. Just to little warning, make sure that what you're Googling is accurate information because there is
Correct.
stuff out there that is not. Someone had a question about and someone else kind of, but I just wanted to ask us, they asked about they understand that singing massages the vagus nerve. If you had any comments about that.
Absolutely. Singing, humming, chanting, whistling. Start singing in your car again, people. You put on the radio. In your 20s, you probably sang. And then we get older, and what do? It's an optimum use of our time. And of course, in Hawaii, chanting. Very anything that causes a little vibration in the throat. There's other massages. Uh, just if you're going to use any kind of device, make sure it's for the vagus nerve stimulation, because we can't just use any kind of device. But the vibration is what stimulates the nerve to then produce the hormones the body is missing most. And the nerve knows where we're missing them most. We don't even know where we're having a lack of calming hormones. But once again, HRV, heart rate variability, is something also to be aware of, to be educated about. It's a measure of our stress response. It's a measure of the heart's beat in between beats. And probably and eventually cardiologists will begin measuring heart rate variability, um, at least in tandem with regular heart rate and blood pressure, as a way to measure stress. And heart rate variability can be improved, stress index can be improved, blood pressure can be improved with the proper stimulation of the vagus nerve in one session or treatment. So it's really a exciting avenue of health. You know, I always thought the muscles and our bones and our joints, and to a degree our organs and the health of those would be the be all end all of my life. And now I know the rest of my life's work is the brain, our nervous system, the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, and most of all, our hormonal response in life. Because, as you said, if we just very simply approached life from more calming hormones, who knows if people would need a war or people would need conflict. And yet, because the sympathetic nervous system is able to be altered by our thinking, our brain, it's our ego. We all want to believe that we have to think differently and we have to use our will better or differently. And what if it's as easy as hormonal balance? We'll see. That's what the future shall hold.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It as I hear about all these wonderful strategies, all I could think about was at times I come across in conversations about how we so people coming together for a meeting. Many times, unfortunately, they're not the most productive. Many times folks leave meetings thinking like that could have been an email. I did it. You gathered like 10, 20 people together. Um, and I'm just thinking these are all wonderful tools that could be utilized during a meeting, not only to build community, to kind of calm people during these stressful times, this fear. So just brainstorming different ways to shift what we normally do on a daily basis. But thank you. One question, how does your Aloha response create sustainability from a person to our land?
So, for me personally, I became much more aware of something really simple: recycling. The recycling truck does not come up the street because it's too steep. And I became more motivated when I became more in touch with my calm side, my calming home, became more motivated to put the bottles and the plastic in the bin right outside the door that the landlord takes to the recycling center, versus saying to myself, "Oh, I'm just one person. What's the big deal about putting it in my trash? If I can take care of the aina in any way, shape, or form, better and different, because I'm more motivated to, it connects me. You know, it has me want to do more sustainable effort. It has me want to be more involved in helping plant trees at the next opportunity in Manoa Valley. It has it opened my mind, versus once again having the stressful side go, oh, but I don't have time. I just get the trash, and I'm busy and I have a new business, and it's so easy to let simple things slip through the cracks. One of my clients is a huge sustainability worldwide um, advocate and expert, and when I'm there to work with her, it's just interesting. Like, she'll want to give me extra food, but she wants to give me a used Ziploc bag, and I'm like, yeah, well, I don't need a new Ziploc bag. Or the little small things, like she needed a new gardener, And so I was trying to refer the gardener from here, and she said, "Do they use leaf blowers? Because I won't use them. That noise pollution and that gas being utilized is not what I'm willing to support." Yeah. So, and it's been really an amazing relationship again, like so many have been in my life this year, because I was introduced to the meditation center in Pololo at the Broken Arrow Temple. It's the only Korean Buddhist temple outside of Korea. And they have Saturday afternoon meditation, uh, 2 to 3 hours. There's actually a talk, a Dharma talk at the end or the last hour. But sometimes we need something really new and inspiring, especially after an opportunity like today's talk story. And I really appreciate that you've really given me that opportunity today. Um, and my company is Japanese, full Japanese woman, co-founder. And what she says is, we be curious, respectful, open, and empathetic to dialogue. That's the start.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. I in the work that I do, I constantly let folks know about how, you know, if we just practice a little more dialogue and cross-cultural understanding, we'd have a little less conflict. Because exactly kind of what you're saying, we'd be shifting our perspective, we'd be building more compassion and empathy toward each other, uh, get beyond the I and the ego. Because sometimes we get so, especially when emotions are high, when folks get upset about something, we forget to think about the collective community and how is this impacting everyone, even if it may seem this is just, oh no, this is just an offense that's like impacting me, because everything is interconnected one way or another, even if we may not see the bridge at the moment. So thank you for just gathering everything together. Oh, we do have Debbie had a question. Oh yeah. So mentioned aloha, and thank you for sharing. How does um how does seeking out and engaging significantly different from one's own contribution to intellectual growth and the ability to critically evaluate complex issues, potentially leading to more nuanced understandings of reality?
Again, I believe that we prep our day. We open our eyes or not. Most of my prep is my eyes still closed because I really like to hit the snooze 3 times. And then we give ourselves some mental influence, some mental programming. Really wasn't until I started doing affirmations on a regular basis. Sometimes listening to a recording, sometimes reading them, sometimes just picking 25 things that I'm thankful for right now in that moment. And uh, one of the great law of attraction people I follow, Esther Hicks from the movie The Secret, from Ask and It Is Given, calls it pre-paving. So pre-paving the day, pre-paving the people, the places I'll need to drive, pre-paving where I see myself going and meeting and who I'm meeting with, and that the conversation goes the best that it can for both of us, and really simplifying how complicated the day could become. And pre-paving, like, you're gonna go through the jungle and you gotta clear it, you gotta make a clearing to get through. We're not gonna get through the jungle just pushing our way through, right? So I hope that answers the question. It's a really good point.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Um, I know Tutu Pohai is with us, providing some wonderful knowledge from Hawaii Island. She mentioned our most dynamic work is in the relationships. Relationship building is vital. Yeah, it's really at the core of the work that we're doing.
I believe so because this is Aloha Response, right? Aloha Response and health, that's the theme. So where does that start? For me, it would start with relationships. And then the foremost relationship is with myself. Starts with myself first. I cannot reach out if I cannot, have a relationship with myself. Whatever that may look like, and it may look like a myriad of things. We know that by all the people that are here this morning. But yeah, and I also wanted to, I know I wrote it in it earlier, but dialogue is vital too. Dialogue's important. Listening's important, but first you have to have someone to talk to. Like these sessions that you have, Jose, are awesome because it's an opportunity, and not everybody's going to be, as talkative as I am, and that's okay. But at least they're present and they're listening, and hopefully something will spark. But it's vital that we have these circles, and I think I wrote it earlier where that's one thing, this is my perspective, that COVID gave us as a people. Not just because we live in Hawaii, but as a people, is it turned into these kinds of circles. I call them circles. They don't look like circles, they look like Hollywood squares, right? But they are circles. And that's really important. So I just wanted to throw that in. And thank you for getting to Debbie's question, because I really had to ponder that, what she wrote, because, where do you begin if you have not begun? Where is the beginning, So anyway, thank you. And Tafawa, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but I went to school with the Tafawa family in Waipahu many
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
My dad's actually. Go ahead.
Robert and I can't. There were three brothers that I went to school with. That
Were they Samoan?
Yes.
I get mistaken for Samoan all the time. Hello.
Tafoya and Ofoia.
Ah, I'm from New Mexico, and if you open the phone book in New Mexico, there's 2-3 pages of Tafoya, and
Wow.
a pretty rare name otherwise. But my dad's Spanish, and my
Small
mom.
world, right? It's a
Yeah,
small world.
my
Thank
mom
you.
immigrated from Germany, so I have a really nice mix. First generation American. My mom was immigrated, and thank you. I appreciate your sharing. Anyone else?
Thank you. I mean, yeah, anyone else feel free to jump in. I do just want to say thank you to the community for coming together as usual. And yeah, just for reminding us how relationships are so key and at the core of all the work that we do. And thank you for spotlighting the relationship with ourselves, which is the most essential one, really, because we can also be our own worst critic. And so it is important that we practice kindness and care toward ourselves if before we engage with others because you want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself because at the end of the day all we got here. So, and so many different ways that we learn to do it today through breathing techniques, through what we eat, through the exercise that we do, through. So, I'm hoping folks take some wonderful skill sets and tools from today's session to be able to practice and maybe bring them into your next, group meeting, your next circle, your next gathering. But if there's no other questions or other comments, I
I
just
just would like to end with
yes.
something that I have to listen to versus read. And so I would just invite everyone to hear that the well being that you seek is flowing to you. Relax and enjoy the unfolding. Feel appreciation for what is and an eagerness for what is coming. There is great love here for you. Aloha.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Carmela, for your time and your knowledge and your grace. It's been truly a joy, and I look forward to continuing our relationship and our further conversations and dialogue as time goes on and in the new year. And yeah, thank you to the audience as well for being here. And yeah, we'll see you all soon again. Take care.